What's up, friend? Hector here from StrongestTech.com with this week's Technique of the Week. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to improve your get-up on part 2 of the How to Improve Your Get-Up series. So over the first part of the series, we went to that first sticking point that many people struggle with, and that's that roll to the elbow, when a lot of times they crunch or they sit up to the elbow and they start to shrug that shoulder. And even when they come down, they try not to shrug the shoulder and they end up kind of flopping on their back. And so I talked about how it's a roll on the way up and a roll on the way down. And so, like I mentioned in the first part, there are 7 postures of the get-up. But the way I break them down is I break them down into 4 phases. So I take those 7 postures and I break them up into 4 phases. And one of the next phases we'll move into is the kind of like that low sweep to that half kneeling windmill position. So the half kneeling windmill is 1 knee's down and 1 knee's up. So I'm half kneeling, okay? Tall kneeling would be both of my knees down, and half kneeling is basically like in this lunge position. So the half kneeling windmill is you're in this pretty much this 90-degree position, okay? One leg is pointed at you, one leg is pointed out here 90 degrees, okay? And then you're basically kind of sweeping to this position here, and then you're in this position with your kettlebell, right? So I think one thing I really want to point out in this is, with all the get-ups that I've done and in my background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is strength training is just like grappling. It's just like BJJ, because it's all about leverages, okay? If you can get the most leverage over the weight, you'll be able to move more weight. I think it was Socrates that said, give me a lever long enough and I can move the world. So if you can learn how to improve your posture, you'll be able to maximize your position. And when you maximize your position, you gain the most leverage over the weight. And that's what Jiu-Jitsu is all about, is getting strong in your posture, not letting people break your posture down, getting strong in your posture. When you have strong posture, you'll maximize a position. Once you fortify and you maximize that position, you'll be able to gain more leverage over the weight, and which means you'll be able to lift more weight safely. So the hip hinge, that low sweep to the half kneeling windmill, is a hip hinge, and it's all about leverage. Learning how to get the most leverage out of your body, but the most leverage over the bell. So what we're gonna do here is just start from this half kneeling windmill position, okay? And I've got my imaginary kettlebell here, okay? Straight line from the fist down to the hand, right? Everything else stays the same. Now, one thing where we can kind of fall apart is we hinge back a little bit. So it's this hip hinge here where you're hinging into your hip, okay? And sometimes we don't hinge enough. So obviously you want to make sure you have the adequate hip mobility, and let's just assume that you do. As you sit here, you don't want to have to try to come up from this position, okay? Here's how you lose leverage. The weight is up here. Here's the kettlebell. But my head, my hips, my whole upper body is pretty far from the bell. So if I hinge a little bit, I've got to try to keep my torso rigid to come up. While this does help improve core strength, we still want to get the most leverage over the bell. And here's how I teach it to my students and how I'm teaching it to you. I want to get my whole body aligned under the kettlebell the best that I can. And so once you're here, I want you to hinge all the way back towards your foot, if you can, okay? Here, now I bring my whole body and I align it underneath the bell. Then I drive through my glutes, I come up, I fix this leg, or you do that little 90-degree turn to come up from the lunge. Then on the way down, common thing I see is a little bit of a hip hinge and then reaching for the ground. While that's not wrong, it's not wrong, you're just not maximizing your leverage, okay? So instead of trying to reach for the ground and trying to find the ground, you want to bring the ground to you, essentially, and that's going to give you the most leverage. So we're basically just reversing this hip hinge, okay? So on the way up, came all the way up to the top. Now to go back, tuck my toes, and I sit my body underneath. That way all my body's aligned under this bell, and look at where the floor is at. The floor is right here. I can literally touch it from this position. I've essentially brought the ground to me as I hinge under. I brought the floor to me, okay? So from here, I hinge, okay? Boom, my body's all aligned under the bell. The floor is right here. Now I use the thigh as the guide, and I just slide my hand out, put my weight into my hand. That way I can step my leg through and sit through for the get up and work my way down. Okay, so let me do it on the other side. That way I'm not running around in circles. Half in the windmill position. Okay, everything is lined up, my foot, my knee, my hand, everything looks solid. Imaginary kettlebell, hinge through the hip, so sit back towards my toe, okay. Imaginary bell, stack all my weight underneath the kettlebell, come up. From there you'll proceed to the last phase, and that's making your way to the top. I just reverse lunge, I've come back down. Hinge through the hip, get my body weight aligned back underneath the bell. There's the ground, I can touch it. Thighs the guide, and I slide out, boom. Put my weight into my hand, that way I can unload my knee. Okay, so once I place my hand on the ground, shift my weight to my hand, so that way I can unload my knee. Okay, step through, put your butt where your knee was. Shoulder stays connected, and then from there you roll to the elbow, you roll back to your back. So that's this week's technique of the week. This is how you can really start to break down and study and improve your get up, because the better you are in your posture and your positioning, the more leverage you'll get over the kettlebell, and you'll be able to be more efficient with your movements as you're going through all 7 postures, or what I call the 4 phases of the get up, and just be more efficient with it, okay? So today we covered the hip hinge, hinging through, but really hinging all the way to the foot, okay? Making sure obviously you need the adequate knee flexion, the mobility and the flexion of the knee to go back there. Aligning your body weight underneath the kettlebell. From there, you'll be able to come straight up under the bell, execute, stand up, lunge, etc. When you come back down, you want to basically reverse all that. Get your body weight, hinge, get back up underneath the bell. The floor is already there. You just slide your hand out, load the hand to unload the knee so you can step through. Pretty simple. So I'll just run through that one quick time. Okay? So here I am. Boom, I just swept through, drop my body weight under, come under, up, adjust, stand up. I just reverse lunge, I open my leg, eyes are back on my bell, hinge, get my body weight back underneath, there's the ground, load the hand, unload the knee, and step back through. Pretty simple, right? Practice that, give it a try, let me know how it goes. If you have a comment, leave something in the comment section below. If you're liking these videos, be sure to subscribe, share it, like it, and that way I can keep doing these videos. I've got more videos for you to check out up here in the corners, to other links in the Technique of the Week series, and that's all I got. Hector with StrongAsHeck.com with this week's Technique of the Week.